This week I've got Mr. Speed here, not the type you think about. This man is all about fast. Roger Fabri is where athletes go to become faster. He has a portfolio of athletes that will blow you away. How are you, mate?
Very good, and thanks for having me. Let's go.
Keen to get you on. Let's go. See, let's start.
Let's go. I'm all about fast.
Welcome to the Body Science Podcast, bringing you everything you need, want, and should know about health, fitness, nutrition, and training. As always, the information contained in this podcast is for the information purposes only and is not designed to diagnose or be prescriptive to treat, prevent, or manage any injury, disease, or other health-related condition.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Pre-Ultra, an extreme, high-stim pre-workout scientifically formulated for anyone wanting to push it further than they ever have before. A powerful combination of performance-enhancing and nootropic ingredients delivered at industry-leading dosages. Pre-Ultra gives you explosive power, strength, and intense pump alongside the laser-like focus, mental clarity, energy, and drive to annihilate your next workout.
Welcome to Body Science, the HQ of Fit, Happy, Healthy. I'm going to drop a super fast on the end of that because Mr. Speed is here himself. Roger has been a friend of ours for a long time. We've shared a lot of athletes over the time. But your list of athletes, mate, and let's start there because I want people to know how good you are, is all time.
Very blessed.
You are. Like, mate, there's some names there that are legends of sport.
Yeah, I'm been very fortunate. Since the very first introduction of me deciding this was going to be a career pathway, because it was never going to be. It was always a passion, and came to be a position where I got an opportunity. And for the first time in my life, I've made so many wrong decisions. I made a right decision.
Yeah, nice.
And decided that this could potentially be something that could be very exciting. More importantly, when you have a job that's your passion, it doesn't become a job.
Yeah, I love that.
How many people to have that opportunity to be able to say that, I love going to work. The array of names is long, and I don't want to sound like I'm big-headed, but it's,
You want me to drop a couple so it goes a little easy for you?
Yeah, if you like.
Josh Adokar, Jared Hayne, David Warner, Sonny Bill Williams. Do I need to keep going on? That's a fair chunk of some of the best athletes in the world.
Yep.
Mate, why do they come to you?
That's a good question. I get asked that many, many, many times.
Sorry, Willie Mason. I left Willie off there and I'm not copping that phone call. Willie Mason goes every week. He still loves his running.
Yeah, he still does. And what you do see with those older guys and all the guys that have...
He said that, Willie, not me.
Absolutely. When they've worked with good mechanics all their life, it's not hard for me to keep switching that switch back on and they go back into a good mode. The being brought up on good software, it's important. And computer, if it's always got good software and it gets always updated, just like your app on your phone, it ticks nicely. If you just let it go and then viruses get in, then
exactly.
It stales.
Training hard.
He is training hard.
Yeah.
He is training hard. So me having that as a career pathway was, as I said, it was a decision I was happy and blessed to have made, and having the opportunity to wake up each day and doing something that you
because you had a pretty good corporate job too, didn't you? Yeah. So that it's a big step to go from that to being a coach.
Well, when I first started a long, long time ago, it was just me being passionate about my sport and trying to be the best version of myself. And I trained a few athletes. I didn't have the luxury of the internet or social media back then, so and there was no course that you can do on speed. So me, it was about traveling overseas, working hard in my corporate job, work non-stop to build a bank each time so I could go away. And going away then wasn't cheap. There was only 2 airlines flying, so you paid top dollar to go. I only had that 4 weeks a year that I had as holidays, and I wouldn't be spending it with her. So I was putting a lot of strain on my family as well.
See, people don't get that, do they?
They don't understand.
It's a different path, isn't it? Yeah.
But, I always say to my wife, unless I'm happy, I can't make you happy.
Yeah, good call.
So I was always going away and trying to learn as much as I possibly can just for myself. And as I said, there came an opportunity it actually came with Anthony Minicello. And you probably relate to this because it was actually with a back issue. And he was having a problem being to stay on the football field. And as I said, I had a squad at that time and I was training a lot of people, but really it was a hobby. It was just, they had an opportunity to train with me. I'd share my knowledge. In the downtime that I would train, my corporate job held priority because it was putting food on the table. Yep. And a guy had heard of me who was working at the Roosters at that time. Minicello had tried every orthodox way of trying to get on the field with his back, managing with chiro, acupuncture, physio, massage, surgery, and wasn't having so much luck. And the guy said to him, and I think he got to a position where he was almost becoming desperate. And he said to Minnie, why don't you try and seeing this bloke? It might be a long shot, but maybe your running style is contributing to this pain and contributing to your performance and contributing to what's causing you pain. playing. Whether it was good management or it was a fluke or who knows, it's ironic, but that was the evolution of how it started for me. So
what a career he had too.
Yeah, he ended up getting that year. He got the Golden Boot and he got back on the football field and played more games than he ever played ever before, got his confidence back. So again, it was still never going to be a career pathway. And I got a little bit of media from it. And then one thing that I am good at is that I know how to seize an opportunity. And you asked me a question before of why do the athletes come to me?
Here's $1 million question. You ready?
The answer is because I try and work with things that are going to make a difference very quickly. I'm not about, I know that I get a very short, limited time span with these players because they're committed to their teams. Experience, living the program has been where I differ from other coaches as well. I don't come from a textbook manual. I come from an experience manual. Everything I've had to do, I've gone out to research. I haven't stood in front of a computer or a textbook and listened and tried to learn. I've actually used or not used or failed or not failed.
Yep.
And that's the way that I've been brought up, and that's what I've been able to do and all the experience I've had. I know what drills or what sessions or what we can do mechanically to get you to where you need to be in the shortest amount of time, because that's important, because you only got a very small window period. You have a commitment to your team. If you've got only 3 or 4 weeks, you want to be working with things that are going to make a difference.
Yep.
And if they make a difference, then other people will follow, because, okay, so I can actually the best part about my job is it's extremely quantifiable. You're either faster or you're not faster.
Yeah, fair call.
As opposed to a skills coach. Well, how do you actually know you've got better in skills? Is it, there's nothing to really determine. Oh, you look better. Well, you pass the ball better. Where myself, it could be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't have any grey areas. I can't put a smoke screen over my client and say you are faster, because there's one form of measurement. You either are faster or you're not. And that's why I think that I have had success, because I try and keep it real. I don't work with stuff that's I wasn't brought up on a social media platform, so I don't really care what looks good. I want to work with things that are going to make a difference. And if it is just simply as boring as sprinting, which is the best form of speed development, there's no other better form of sprinting is the best form. So do it, and do it properly.
So say Sonny or Dave or someone comes to you for the first time. Talk us through what a session might feel like.
So there you go. So that's again where you will see where experience and maybe my intelligence does come a little bit better, is because those guys already come to you and they're well-founded or well-rounded machines.
Yeah.
What do you do
You've
with
had
them?
the best of the best training them already.
Absolutely. And I give a lot of credit to a lot of coaches that are before me. And really, so how I would simulate it would be similar to if you open the bonnet of a Ferrari and there's still 2 cylinders haven't been touched yet. And that's where I can expertise. So the 4 main principles, they're there for you, but you need that fine trained eye to be able to find that 1%, which Sonny always talks about, which we've worked extensively with Dave, that's going to take their game to another level. And actually that 1% doesn't become 1% when you do it properly. It actually becomes about 10%. A lot happens there.
Yeah, exactly.
You would be surprised.
Yeah, nice. So, mate, you've worked with a lot of overseas teams as well and building up that base of knowledge you talked about, like non-textbook. You've been there, done it. You paid for the flights. You went overseas. Do you want to talk about how an Aussie guy who's probably, most guys would be flaunting a PhD or a doctorate of some kind to say, hey, I want to come over and do some stuff with you. Yep. How did you actually even get a door opened over there? Like, why would they want to listen to you?
I'm great. I'm so glad you asked that question, because I want something out of this podcast is that I don't come from that traditional background, and it certainly causes me some grief. Don't worry about that. I have a lot of people who have an opinion on me that don't even know me, and that really disappoints me. A lot of people with some high levels of intelligence and a hell of a lot of more qualifications, especially in a sports science background, that will talk about myself that don't even know me. So the answer to your question was knocking on doors. In particular, there was 2 people that were my mentors when I was young, and one was Charlie Francis, who was the coach of Ben Johnson, who spoke a lot in Canada, so I had to spend a lot of time there. He held a lot of open seminars, which I used to attend and learn as much as I possibly could, backwards and forwards. But I understood very early on that if I was going to ever do anything that was going to be, as I said, it was always passionate. But then towards the end of my visits, I understood there could be a potential of an income stream there. And I thought, well, I need to know more than just learning about straight line running. Because unfortunately, in this country, if you limit yourself to just track and field athletes, I'd be broke. Yeah. There was no way I could make an income out of that. I'd be eating out at the Salvation Army. So I needed to make sure I try and go and learn from a sport where there's multi-directional movement. So I can specialize in that as well. So working with players or field playing athletes that, in Australia, especially in New South Wales, rugby league is the biggest code. And I thought if there was an opportunity that I have to be with them because they can put food on my table. I can charge what I needed to. So after repetitive visits to San Diego Chargers, eventually the guy just like, wow, I can't get this guy away. Every off season you come. And I would obviously I said, I'm not coming from around the corner. I think I could sell myself quite well. I'll hope you look at it as a compliment that I'm coming here and willing to learn. I don't have any other way of learning anything. He said, look, eventually he said, the best I can do, you can fill the water bottles up. I said, I'm cool. Yep. I'll do it.
Water boy.
Yep. And I did that.
Yeah.
And I listened and I kept going back. And then eventually I worked from there till went to the New York Jets. And then I ended up getting a paying job with the Dallas Cowboys.
Nice.
So that was
that would have been surreal, wouldn't it?
It was incredible. But I was only working with the rookies. Who cares?
Exactly.
I got an opportunity went for training camp, which is about 6 to 8 weeks. Just learning as much as I can. Experience is so important. One thing that you might also get out of this podcast, if you are a coach out there, is that, and I've seen it happen many, many times in my years, is that even if you are full of all this knowledge, if you just can't coach, then you're useless. Being able to coach, to be able to have a relationship with your athlete so they can respect you and perform with you is worth millions more dollars than a PhD. And I think that's the ability that I'd be able to have. I have that ability to be able to talk the footballers talk and to talk a coach's talk as well at the same time. And that is an art form. You might think that's a given. And I've seen people come and being able to filled with information. At the end of the day, the athlete doesn't give two shits about it. They don't give a fuck about all the chemistry and the science behind it. They just want to know how to do it, what's the best way to do it, and if it's going to improve them.
Make me faster.
That's what they want to be there for.
Yep. So you do a lot of grassroots stuff too. It's not all elite athletes, isn't it? You've invested back in juniors and stuff.
So fortunately, my business has grown rapidly to the point that my infrastructure can't keep up with it. Don't have this mental picture that I'm rolling in money. I'm still driving a shit car and still just doing the best way I can. But with the people like yourself who have supported me from the very, very start, and I'm privileged to do this podcast to be able to pay you back in some short.
We appreciate that.
So the business has grown rapidly. I do now have a junior speed agility academy, which is run by, I don't have the patience for the kids, unfortunately. Yep. I love working with them, but I have 3 coaches who look after that, and they specialize in that area. The way I found my coaches as well, again, I cop a lot of slack about this as well, because most of the people I've taught them, they've come through me. They've either been my athletes or been in my academy, because I think my philosophy should be the way I was made my success. It should be through experience. They've felt it. They know how to live a program. They breed it. They ride it. They execute it. And more importantly, it's important to me, if they're going to represent my brand, I should be able to walk into any of their sessions with my own coaching cues, and their client should know what I'm talking about. Yeah, nice. And it works nicely.
Nice. You coach other coaches?
Yeah. Yep. So I've just started that in the last 2 or 3 years, where people are interested to listen to my story and work with the same cues that I work with. You have a look back at Jesse Owens, the way he ran, and then you have a look at Usain Bolt. It hasn't changed all that much. You might think to yourself, there is so much complexities when we're actually talking about a mechanical execution. But the weekend warrior or the general pop or even the average footy player just haven't even got the basic tools in play. So it ain't that complicated. It doesn't need to be complicated. Okay. It needs to be kept simple. And I'm big on that. Working small time frame, working with cues that make a difference, but keep it simple and get them to sprint, because that's what's going to make the freaking difference. Don't get them standing against a wall and pretending to sprint. Get them to sprint.
Yeah, nice. That's got pain written all over it.
And I think people get a newfound respect about working with me, and they understand when they go through the program, they have a completely new respect for speed, because those guys do work damn hard. When you see an Olympian or a sprinter take their shirt off, they look like they're chiseled. It's not because they spend 40 hours doing cosmetic stuff. They just work so damn hard on the track that it puts them in such great shape. They look like absolute pure thoroughbreds.
Do you do a lot with track athletes?
Yes, I do, because it's still my passion. I've had an opportunity where I've had really good athletes, and unfortunately, because there's just no money in the sport, I've had to let them go, because I feel that an athlete that has a journey to go to the Olympic needs some real intensive care. Yep. And unfortunately, at this stage of my life, being 52, I need to look after my family, so I need to be where money is. Yeah, and it's disappointing. I would love to be in a position where track and field was a place I could make money, but it's just unfortunate in this country there's no demand.
So you're telling me that a guy who's won Coach of the Year in New South Wales in their athletic league is not getting funding to help athletes?
No.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is it still like that?
It is.
Wow. Anything we can do about that?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I think that a lot of people have tried. I don't want to really get into the political side of that. I think I'm just in a lose-lose situation if I do that. I'm not too sure. I think that it is a difficult sport to get entertainment value of, because it's really you just point it running from one point to the other, and it's, in any distance it's any further than 200. I think people get bored seeing people just keep running round and round and round and round in circles. It gets highlighted only once every 4 years at the Olympics.
Yep.
People get a sudden urge to be. But then if you see it in a game scenario, they love it because it's the difference between winning or losing a game. A guy runs the length of the field with a ball in his hand, having 13 other guys try and chase him. It looks great.
Yep.
And that's when they love speed. So they want it in a ball scenario.
Yeah. So, mate, let's talk about you for a while. What was your background? You obviously were a sprinter yourself when you were younger.
I was handy. Nothing special.
Yeah. Did you play any sports?
I did. I played. I was rubbish. I was on the wing. I was I was a good footballer because I had speed.
Yep.
But I was scared to tackle, and I was scared. I didn't want to get tackled, so that's why I was lucky I was fast.
Oh, mate, that's an interesting play. So, for all those young people out there that aspire to be the next Roger, what's a pathway you would tell these young people to look at? Like, should they be doing what you did over in the NFL and knocking on your door saying, let me in, or should they be getting some qualifications first and then coming to see you?
So
like, do you have do this before you come and spend time with me?
See, it needs. I feel the answer to that question, it's really going to be your character type. I've had heaps of setbacks in my life, heaps. Mm-hmm. Some good, some bad. I'm a sufferer as well. I suffer with mental illness as well. Mm-hmm. So having that strive to wake up each day has sort of given me a bit of resilience, and you've got to put your makeup on and pretend everything's going all right when sometimes things are not going so crash hot for you. And I've been also in trouble, and I built myself up from that as well. The question that you asked me, what would they do? If you have resilience, then you could work the way I did, but it's the ability to take no for an answer. If you can take no for an answer and just get back up and it doesn't make a difference, then my pathway is successful eventually. These days, and you would see it in this industry more than anything, with the laws that are around as far as protocol is concerned with drugs, and I don't think you can really get into a door unless you have some type of an accreditation. The demand, I think it's the most highly sat in course now is sports science. There's just not enough jobs to accommodate all these people. I don't really know where they end up doing. What is sad is that most codes that I've been involved with is really, if you know somebody, you can get somewhere. But how do you get to know somebody, or how do you get somebody to pay attention to you? It's that type of industry. It's like the fitness world. People are out there grinding and social mediaing, and is too much, or I'm sick of this people flaunting this. It's a difficult art form. I can't give you the answer. I don't know what would be my suggestion would just keep grinding. And what I would do if a guy was to come to me and say, look, what would I, if I want to get the pathway the same as you, I'll be trying to go to places and just offering my services for free. I didn't get here overnight. I gave so many free sessions away. I used to go to the local football team and offer my services. Three or four sessions a night in the freezing cold. It wouldn't worry me. It's just a chance for me to expose myself. Other people are going to be your press representation. If you do good work and they see a difference, they'll talk for you. That's how it's got to work. It's got to work the network way. My social media, if you look at my social media account, it shows anything but my athletes. It's all about me being a clown because I feel I let my athletes talk for me.
Yep.
I'll do the work. They'll go out there and they represent. They know that I'm involved in it, and that's enough for me. Sure, I get my media coverage as well, but I promise you, if you have a look at my social media, and even though I don't even know how to do it properly, I'm 52, it's so difficult. I get so confused, but more of it's about me spending time with my father or mucking around than it is actually about track and field or any type of speed.
So you're answering your DMs?
I try to, yeah.
Because if people want to find Roger, here's his Insta account. At Mr Roger Fabri, Fabri. So if you are an aspiring sprint coach, don't DM him. He's probably not going to answer it. But mate, if people want to come and see what you do, is there somewhere they can see what you do on a daily basis?
So we work 7 days a week. We're sunrise to sunset. Yeah.
Okay.
All of my coaches do. They've all got pretty nice businesses, so they all run their business independently. Obviously, we coach all the same way.
Yep.
but how they manage their business, that's entirely up to themselves. I base myself predominantly out of Centennial Park in Sydney. If that's your
nice
field,
part of the world.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's a great office. And if you're a field athlete, that's where you'll find me. And if you're a track athlete, I base myself out of ES Marks, and that's a track about 10 minutes away from Centennial Park. So I'm there in the afternoons, and in the mornings so the field athletes I usually do in the mornings, and the track athletes I do in the afternoons.
So I know that the field athletes have been very good to you when you start looking at the names of the people, like Sonny Williams,
Yep.
Jared Hayne, Dave
Yeah.
Warner, like amazing.
Yeah.
Where's the passion? Is the passion on the track or is it on the field?
That's a good question.
Where's the heart lie?
If you asked me this question 15 years ago, I would have said the track. But you've got to, as you know, loyalty is so hard. To have those guys go out and specifically mention my name, I owe a lot to them.
Yeah.
I owe a lot to them. So I probably wouldn't be in the position I am in without these guys performing the way they did. They don't have to mention me. I don't force them to mention me after when they have an interview with anybody. So I'm very fortunate and blessed as that. So I have to say my loyalties now and my passion has grown there.
Yeah, nice. So it all started with Mini, you said?
Yeah.
What was the journey after that? What did it look like? Like, did the Roosters come on board then, or did other athletes come to you? How did that work?
After then, I think I had a period where I was still working in my corporate position. It was probably still another 2 years before, or 2 or 3 years before I decided I'm going to have a crack at this. I got athletes intermittently from all different types of codes, but all from that from that one story. I used that as a little snowball, and then it crescendoed into an avalanche. So I'd have other players come in, pop out. Then I think Freddie then said to me, come on, let's come on board. And gee, I look back at myself and wish I could have handled things so much more different then. I never stood in my own lane then. I was so up myself.
Okay.
I thought that, me just coming from the streets and then getting an opportunity like that, not that I didn't cause any waves, but I just thought, I look back at myself then now and thought, it's not the coach that I am. I've evolved so much. Getting an opportunity straight off the bat with no really credentials or accreditation, just of my experience was mind-blowing for me.
That's a big step.
I didn't really handle it really well. I thought that if I could go back, I would change things. I was more a player's coach than I was a coach's coach. I would hang with the players, but then I'd have opinions to myself.
Yep.
On what other people were doing. So who am I to do that? And I'm glad that I've changed from that, and I'm glad that I've learned to stay in my lane. It's made my head noise a lot easier to manage. Before then, I was always trying to be a person I wasn't.
And mate, how like you've touched on the head noise twice now.
Yeah.
What do you do as like a coach who has a real area of responsibility? Like coaching is not something you should do if you don't want to coach.
Yeah.
How do you give to somebody else day after day, like you said, 7 days a week? What have you done in your life to manage yourself from that period you just said you fucked up or whatever you did with the Chooks? What have you done now that makes you that better person, that has turned you into 6 times awarded coach, dealing with the Sunnies and that of the world? Like, mate, there's a million people out there put their hand up and say, please let me do that. Like, what is it that's given you that difference or given you that growth as a human?
That's a good question. So predominantly my own medication was my own training.
So you got that right? Oh, you medicate. Oh, so you're training, right? Yeah, yep.
That was in my first time. I've had 2 severe breakdowns. Yep. I had one when I was 29, and I just had one about 2 years ago, very recently. The first one, I just suffer with bad anxiety. It's just, I don't know if it's a chemical imbalance or what it may be, but I've always been anxious.
Yep.
I even look back at periods now in my life, and I can really identify periods as a young kid where I've been lying in the back of the car always complaining about a stomach ache or whatever it may be. So I know I've always been anxious. I had a pretty bad breakdown when I was 29, but I came from an ethnic family which the values have been installed in me still now, that my dad was always there to support me, always had somebody to fall back on.
It's unreal, isn't it?
So I was very lucky my dad was a very hard worker, so they always had a security blanket. Then my parents made a bad investment and we lost all our money, so I had to really decide how am I going to fend for myself. I made some good decisions and I had made some bad decisions. Exercise was the only consistent thing that kept me level. I still had the ability to coach quite well. Because I've been experienced to anxiety and depression for such a long period of time, I knew how to get myself into a better place when it come to performance, whether it be a coaching or whatever. I still use this as to this day. I sit down every time. I'm big on making sure that every session I do is an A-grade session. Yeah. I only do as many sessions as I can in a day to be able to perform A-grade every single time. Yeah. I factor in fatigue significantly. I factor in my age and I factor in my fitness. So I know that every time I go out there, even if I'm not feeling so crash hot, I will make an excuse to the client that I need to get something out of the car, go into my car and read my checklist to make sure, because I understand that if I get this right, then every other part of the piece of the jigsaw puzzle can fit into place. But if I can't get my mainstream income right, or if I can't perform well, then it affects so many areas of my life. So I always had the ability, even at my sickest, to be able to perform well. If I was really, really sick, then I would not turn up for the day. I'd have to cancel if I was really, really sick. But that didn't even happen. Yeah. Even in my darkest time, or maybe once or twice. Then my father passed away. So I lost my security blanket. Yeah. And I spent every day with my father. Even to right now, we separated from mum. I'm very close to my dad. If you look at my social media, you'll see there's a hell of a lot about him. And my whole world catastrophized. But it was killing me while he was towards the end of his life anyhow, because every day I would come home after work, I was so scared opening the door. I was so anxious. I'd stand outside the door because I didn't know what I was going to find on the other side. Sometimes I'd come home and find him, he was on the floor, he'd have a fall, he wouldn't let me get somebody to look after him. I spent all day at work, I couldn't concentrate, it was driving, but I was on autopilot. Still coaching at a very high level, but I was just on autopilot. The cues would come automatically for me. It was inevitable, Greg. I had a massive breakdown. I was suicidal. So bad I was. I used to get in the car and I wanted to drive onto the other side of the road. But at the same time, my father told me that I have to look after my whole family. I have a brother, I have my mother, they were separated. And I've got my wife and my kid. I'm the only bread earner. I look after everybody. I pay everybody's bills. That's why I don't really have anything, but I wouldn't have it any other way. That's how I had to continue on. I understood that I've built my business up. I've worked so hard to get here, but I couldn't think clear, and I didn't want to lose it. So I went on medication. Because the exercise and all my other strategies that I'd put in place, they weren't cutting it. I wasn't getting relief from it anymore. I was trying everything. I was running so hard and I was meditating and nothing was working. So I wish now, if I could take back 30 years, I would go on medication 30 years ago. It's changed my life.
That's unreal.
It's changed my life. I've got to a position where now it's not that it just takes the edge off me, because I know all the tools. I've done every clinic that there was possible. Back then when I very first had it, there was only one professor, Gavin Andrews, who ran an anxiety disorder clinic out of St Vincent Hospital. Just one. It wasn't very well known. There's nowhere near as prevalent mental health as it is these days. Back then when nobody really understood how it was. And you had to do that course medication free so you could learn the tools. So I've been doing all these tools a lot longer than everybody else is doing them. Relaxation, progressive relaxation, meditation, positive thinking, cognitive thinking, all these wellness. I had already been using to an extreme. But when you drop down that low, I couldn't get out of it. I didn't have time to waste. Because every day I wasn't being able to turn up to work. It was going to affect my business. So I needed some help. I was desperate. My family was desperate. And anyhow, I continued to work on autopilot, but even with me keep going back to the car and doing my checkpoints and going through everything, I was performing so poorly. But the client, they wouldn't know. How would they know? They wouldn't know what's right or wrong. I knew what I was saying. Honestly, I don't think some of the coaching cues I was saying even made sense. But I think because the people were so happy to be able to train with me, they just acknowledged it and just performed it. I think, oh my God, this is just a disaster. Anyway, my very first lot of medication that I went for didn't work. And you go through, I'm not sure if you understand how they work, but you've got to give them a period of time till they get into your system. In actual fact, in the early stages, when you start taking them, you actually feel worse before you start feeling better. So I was already so down as it is, and I never slept. I used to try and take sleeping tablets, anything to try. And if you don't sleep, then things are 10 times worse. Yeah. But I met a person in there who said, look, please try and stick with it, because if you find one and you get one right, you will thank me. And he gave me hope, and he became like my mentor. I used to go to his place and we'd walk and talk. I drove him insane. I used to ring him all, and he never ever was not there for me. He was always there for me. Eventually I found one. I've got onto a tablet that works for me. I don't know how to explain it. It's like I've never seen the stars so bright.
Wow.
I can coach like it's clear. I've never had clarity in my life. I've always been foggy. I used to think life was so overrated. I was like, I don't understand why people were so happy about. I used to think, what's so good about this? But now I understand. I look forward to things. I get excited about things. I'm passionate about things. You can see the way I talk. That's how I coach. I'm passionate. Everything I do is I give 100%. I appreciate things that I've never had to appreciate before. Yes, a couple of things have been taken away from me. I have zero sex drive. I don't care. What's the use of having great sex drive, but you want to kill yourself?
Yeah.
Some of the things are negative that comes from. Not all tablets come from there. But it's not that it's reinvented my life. It's just taken 20% off that I can put all these tools back into place, and they work so powerfully now because the edge is off it. When you have that edge on you, all these tools of running or meditation or everything that's been recommended from a clinical psychologist or everything they don't work because you can't devote into it because you lose your concentration. You're clouded. You have demons running there. It's a terrible feeling.
Man, I wish people could see your face because you are talking to a lot of people who are probably sitting listening going, that's me. And, I've got to commend you for talking to people about having tools back then because it wasn't okay to talk about that.
It wasn't.
It is now. And like people like you have led the way to where a whole generation of people can actually now, as you said, get that 20% back. That's making a massive difference in their life.
It makes a lot of difference. And they've got stigma about them. And sure, I'm not here to sell them. I'm just saying, why not try them if that's what you're there for? If you have cholesterol, you take a cholesterol tablet.
Yeah.
If you have blood pressure, you take a blood pressure tablet. If you're down and there's 19 brands or 20 brands out there, why can't you try it? Just to see if I'll help you. I'm big on social media and people understand that I suffer with this. And because I've been that way, I mentor a lot of people who like to remain private and I'm cool with that. But I'll only help you if you're going to at least help yourself.
And that's the big thing. You've got to want to help yourself.
You've got to help yourself. Even if I know you don't feel like it. I know you lose your motivation. You lose that energy to do that. But it ain't going to come knocking on your door. What are you going to do? You either try, and eventually you will try. And even I kept going to work, and I kept trying to be myself, and I kept trying to live a life. My mentor kept pushing me. You can't die from it. Of course, you could be catastrophic to yourself. You just have to live and carry it. And eventually, it's like a tunnel. I don't know how long that tunnel is going to be, but you can make the tunnel shorter by doing things, trying things. It doesn't have to be so freaking long. It could be so much shorter. And mine was 4 months and I eventually got through the light. The first time without medication, I was 16 months. 16 months.
Wow.
But I functioned, but I didn't have any responsibilities. My dad looked after me. I sat at home. We were old ethnic wogs waiting for some miracle to happen that I was going to come out of it. It never came. Eventually, it must have just worn off. And I was scared I was going to go through another. I didn't have that time to waste. And that's the true story.
Wow. And that's what made you medicate?
Absolutely, because I didn't have time.
Because you know what? I just talk about males a lot because obviously...
Can I just interrupt one more second? You know, I cried every time I had to take a tablet. I cried.
Is that right?
Every time. My wife was wanting to force it into my mouth because I kept saying, I've been on this one 7 weeks and nothing. I went through the first one for 9 weeks for the psychologist to tell me we're going to have to try another brand. And who has got the guts to do that again? I understand people stopping and don't want it to go for it. But that's if they knew what was going to work, then there'd only be one brand, not so many different ones. That's just how it works. It's a hit and miss. It's a chemical makeup you're trying to see through somebody's head. You can't see what's going on. We've got to just try and see. Very much with your successful supplements. Some people get more out of them than others. I'm sure you would know that.
Oh, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Wow, I'm just going to take a minute and take a breath there because that was from your heart, mate. And I hope someone's listening to this that actually gets something from that and keeps the journey going.
So do I.
Yeah, I really do. Because the other side's not.
Because the other side is useless. You don't get another chance.
Yeah.
And I used to think about it every second of the day. It used to drive me crazy. And I understand. I feel for people who go through that. I understand what they're going through.
I really don't know what to say now. I'm like, I thought we were going to talk about you running fast. Mate, if you've changed your life today, I clap you all day because I can see in your eyes that I wish people could see your eyes right now because that is pure truth that you just spoke. Can I ask you something that when I was listening to you talked about a checklist, and it was in your car. And so it was close by. Obviously, the car's always close by. Not what's on your checklist, but what what should people who have that 20%, 50% grey that you're talking about, that I don't get it, I don't get why people are happy, what did that checklist do for you?
A lot, everything, because it made me understand that I had to do what I needed to do to be the best version of myself. Presentation.
And you wrote that checklist yourself?
Did I look good?
Yeah.
Am I looking smart? Am I professional? Am my coaching cues ready? Have I set up the session for what I want to get out of the session? Is every tool set into place? Do I look professional? Those are some of the things that I go through.
So you obviously know this list backwards. What's the part of leaving, getting out of the environment you're in, sitting down and reading it again? What was that doing
Affirmation.
for you?
It gives you, it confirms you.
Confirms you.
And you've got to make sure I say, am I ready? I have a look. They're quantifiable. Everything that I've got on there is quantifiable. So, and I know, have I ticked that box? Have I not? And as I said, if it drifts off and I feel myself drift off during the day, I just go back and sit, and it takes 5 minutes. It's just another tool that I've learned. It's another tool to be able to, when you have negative thoughts, to be able to replace it with a positive one. Otherwise, the same record keeps playing. If you want to change, things have got to be put into place to make you can't just say, I'm going to change today. And if you don't do anything about it, nothing changes. How many people do you go out on New Year's Eve and will say, my New Year's resolution is that I'm never going to smoke again? 5 days later, they've got a cigarette in their hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
You actually got to do something about it. By just posting it on Facebook or saying, that isn't going to change anything.
Yep.
And there's one thing I've also learned is, don't go and vocalize anything until you've done something about it, because you're demotivating yourself, not others. By going out there saying you're going to do something, then you go away from that demotivates yourself. You feel like you're a failure. You've got to set up goals that are, you're putting pressure on yourself. Yeah. Get a bit of time up. Then you'll find the whole world will be there to support you. I've been 6 weeks on this medication. Good on you. Keep it going. It's going to come. It's like anything. If you go into the gym and you work out for 6 weeks, your body's going to change. But you've done something about it. Don't complain about being overweight, but do not one thing about it. How can I support you? What do you want me to do? Tell you it's going to be okay. I'm not God. I'm not going to change you. You've got to do it yourself. I'll give you the tool. I'll help you with the pathway, but you've got to do it. And I'm no good to you unless I'm good for myself. How can I support you if I've got my own problems? I've got to be the best version of myself first, and then I can make sure that you're the best version of you.
Mate, you're an inspiration. You are an inspiration. I've got a big question for you.
Go ahead.
What's next?
Well, that's why I've got the right people put into play. People like yourself, like Tanya, like Cameron. I've got people who are best in their industry. I understand that I'm good at only one thing. I coach. I'm a brilliant coach. I'm not a business person. I'm not a person that can set a pathway. Every time I seem to make a decision that's outside the realm of what I specialize in, I fail. So I've learned. So I'm associating with myself with people who are going to help me get to where I want to go. And the best is, the next place is for me to hopefully not work so hard 7 days a week, that I can keep providing for my family in the most efficient way. And at the same time, that my health is the most important thing that comes along for the ride.
Yeah, people don't get the health of the hustle, do they?
That's so important.
No, it is.
I don't care if I'm broke as long as I'm healthy, mentally and physically. You know, there's so many people that would swap for my depression, that they're suffering from cancer, or that have got so many more stories about it, and their headspace is so terrific. And they're people who are real heroes. They're people, and I've just got to keep battling. They would swap with me in a heartbeat. So you've got to be happy for where I'm at.
Wow. I can't comment on that, mate, but that is very powerful words you're putting out there.
It's just the truth.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Let's get back on your academy.
Sure.
Might change topic there a little bit. Let's talk about the Roger Fabri Speed Academy.
Yeah.
That is Sydney-based only at the moment?
No, it's not.
No?
No, we've progressed. We're in Canberra. Got a little affiliation just starting up in New Zealand, and we're going to we're just about to do a big launch in the Sunshine Coast.
You're a busy man.
Again, the right people around me, guiding me in this direction and telling me this is the way to go.
So, mate, what does an academy mean? Like, what does it mean to someone to join your academy?
Yeah, so unfortunately, it's not an actual physical structure. There's not a place where, like, it's like a building. It's just called the academy. The academy. So what would happen is, a normal person would come in. We have an assessment. I have a simple screening assessment. The assessment really is an opportunity for both of us, myself, to identify, where do I start the program. Some people are born with a gift. Most people that succeed at a very high level are born with that gift. Yep. And what they do with that gift is really entirely up to themselves, which is, we probably look at life and think that's a bit unfair, because I train, and so do some of my athletes, just train so damn hard, but they're never going to be a Jared Hayne or a Sonny Bill. And it's great to see those guys that are born with that gift to maximise So I get them in, and then some people I might have to start at the middle of the program. Most people I start at the very beginning. But more importantly, it's an opportunity for me able to give a very realistic expectation to the client or what they can expect out of the program. And I think that's really important. And again, experience has been, there's no use telling a guy that he's going to get 10 meters when that's never going to happen. And I think then you lose credibility. And I'm big on my coaches telling them to make sure that whatever goals you set for them, especially for the parents, because they're the ones that are paying the bill. And as I said previously, our craft is so quantifiable, so you can't hide. Don't say you're going to make improve 10 meters, because you can actually measure the improvement, as opposed to any other industries. There's no quantifiable strategies. I love that about our industry, that I've got those capabilities of being able to do that. They'll come in, I'll determine which pathway they should go on, and fortunately, 8 out of 10 achieve the goal that we want to get to, and that's how the reputation has got built and the brand's so strong.
Mate, so I love hearing these success stories. Like, let's talk about NRL, for example. Sure. Let's not mention a player, but someone comes to see you. What are they asking for? You've got a few weeks in between seasons and in off season, like you said. It's a tough time. They've got to give you their heart and soul, otherwise it's not going to work.
Yep.
What are they asking for? Are they asking for, I want a meter over 100 meters? Are they saying, I want to be, what's a typical thing you're working on?
And that's where then you have to condition the expectation of the client, because as you said, there's only a very limited time frame, and those bang for your bucks or big improvements, that's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. It's impossible. So I always say when they ask that, my answer is, and this is my typical answer, I will represent you back to your team a faster athlete than when you left there.
Yeah, nice.
And then then I don't have any boundaries. Yep. All I've got to do is just find them faster. Nice. How much faster? I can't tell you. Yeah. But I promise you one thing, you'll get faster.
So how do you then deal with someone like Dave Warner, who doesn't start from a perfect running position? He's holding a bat, he's side on, his feet are in completely wrong direction where he's running. How do you as an expert then make him quicker? Because you've done 22 feet? Is that what a cricket pitch is?
22 feet.
You got 22 feet to get him to his next 300.
Okay, but I want you also to think about another thing.
Yeah.
How much time does he spend in the field as well? How many fours has he stopped chasing the ball?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I was not thinking that wide. You're right. Yeah.
You know how many players he's run out since he's found this newfound speed? Cricket Australia are even scratching their heads. Is
that right?
Yep. You know how many twos he's turned into threes? I think Marcus Labuschagne said when he got out in the last game, I'm so glad I got out. I can't keep up with him anymore.
I love it.
Guy was producing high intensity efforts in the 9th hour as much as he was doing in the 2nd hour. That takes unbelievable effort.
Absolutely. So, stupid question, do you only deal with people who run in sport? Like, do people come and see you in other sports?
All sports fortunately have, even netball, even though I work with a lot of netballers. It's a power sport. Yeah. It's only a very small movements, depending on what position they play.
Fast.
But it's that fast, repetitive effort. So yes, the answer to your question, mostly people that do sport come and see me, yes. But all codes.
All codes? Yeah. And a mum and dad's coming, is sprint training the new functional training? Are people coming to see you? Because I know if I tried to sprint, I'd be holding the back of 2 legs very quickly going, fuck, I've got 6 weeks on the sideline.
I think what's happened is that the average Joe bloke can see that any game now, unless you can get to the ball, doesn't matter what sort of skills, that you're useless. Yeah. So you could be as skillful as anything, but if you haven't got the speed to get to the ball, then what's the use of having these skills? Soccer always saying the reason they can't go to the next level when Australia go and play internationally is because the game is too fast for them.
Yep.
So the people at NRL, let's go back to NRL. They haven't got time to coach speed. So you know what they do? They pay top dollar for it.
Yep.
So if you've got speed, they'll pay big dollars for you. Who do the parents want? They want the dollars.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's an easy sell. It's an easy sell. And then you say, well, what about power? Well, you can be as powerful as anything, but if you can't catch me, then what's the use of having the power?
I love it. That's a T-shirt, I reckon.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do understand totally what you're saying.
So you can be as strong as you want in the gym, but if you can't actually catch me, who cares?
Yep. Mate, we might wrap this up in a second. That's been a long journey. You've still got my head spinning from the last 5 minutes. I'm sorry. I can't thank you enough for sharing your story, mate.
I thank you for giving me an opportunity to broadcast it.
Look, I think today that you may give a lot of people some hope today. That wasn't what we came up to talk about, but I think some people sitting there listening to this with their headphones on and go, you know what, I can make a change if I need to, or I might need to address a real change.
Thank you.
And mate, if you've changed one person's life, I commend you on that, like legend.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on board.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Today's podcast was brought to you by our partners in Fit, Happy and Healthy, ASN, Nutrition Warehouse, DY Discount Vitamins, Fat Burners Only, Evelyn Faye, Mr Supplement, or find a retailer online at bodyscience.com.au/retailers.